Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh and this is your stimulus check update for Friday, July 3rd. We finally made it to the end of the week. In this video, I'll be discussing both the first and second stimulus checks, including the June jobs report, which actually showed off some pretty impressive numbers and why we should perhaps be a little bit worried about those. I'll also be going over the EIDL grant, and then I'll be wrapping up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. But first, if you wouldn't mind real quickly liking this video, giving me a big thumbs up, it really just helps with the YouTube algorithm in terms of pushing this video out to other people like you and hopefully helping other people like you as well. Also, leave a comment in the comment section below letting me and others know whether or not you received your first stimulus check yet or not. Believe it or not, unfortunately, there are still millions of Americans who haven't even received their first stimulus payment, even though we're already talking about a potential second round. So let me know in the comment section below if you even received your first stimulus check yet or not. Okay, so I just wanted to start out this video by talking real quickly about the first round of stimulus checks. Unfortunately, just like I mentioned a moment ago, there are still millions of people who are waiting for their first stimulus checks, even though the second round may be going out in just a month or so from now. Now, the next set of direct deposits are set to be sent out next Wednesday on July 8th. So if you haven't been checking the payment portal within the last few days, then I would encourage you to do so and leave a comment in the comment section below if you are also receiving a payment date of July 8th as well. And if you go to check the payment portal and you're still getting that error message of payment status not available, that only means that the IRS has not yet scheduled a delivery date for you. So that message does not mean that you're ineligible to receive the check. It just means they have not yet scheduled a delivery date for you. One issue that I have been seeing a lot in the comment section of my videos is that some people will go to check the payment portal and they'll receive a date of direct deposit, but that date will pass and they won't actually get a direct deposit. So they're wondering where their money is. Well, what is happening in these cases is that the IRS is trying to send the direct deposit, but for whatever reason, the bank is actually rejecting the payment and they're sending the payment back to the IRS. So at that point, the IRS actually has to reprocess your payment again. And instead of trying to directly deposit your check once again into your bank account, they'll just be issuing you a check in the mail instead. So if you're one of the many people who are also having that same issue, then you should expect for a check to arrive in the mail very, very soon. The payment portal should also update accordingly. In the meantime, for everyone else who is still waiting for their first stimulus check, hang in there, you will eventually receive a payment date, and then you will eventually receive your payment. All right, moving right along to some second stimulus check updates. So the June job reports are finally in, and the US added a staggering 4.8 million jobs last month, which is super impressive on the surface. The current unemployment rate sits at 11.1%, which is still a lot higher than normal, but you also have to consider that we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Back in February, before businesses were forced to close, we had 15 million more jobs than what we currently have now. Leisure and hospitality accounted for the biggest jump with a 2.1 million gain. Retail also saw a sizable boost, gaining 740,000 jobs. And another noteworthy gain was in the manufacturing industry with a 356,000 job growth. President Donald Trump also said that manufacturing is about to take off to a level that it's never been. Trump went on to say, "A lot of that has to do with our trade policy because we're bringing manufacturing back to our country." One thing that I do have to note is that this survey was compiled in mid-June, and that was before the virus began spiking again, which forced businesses to start closing down in states like Arizona and Texas. And recently, the Department of Labor released some new data showing that 1.4 million new unemployment claims were filed by Americans. Some economists are even beginning to worry that the job layoffs may even possibly accelerate now that virus cases are spiking in states like Florida, Texas, and Arizona. This means that even though the June jobs report looks really good on the surface, it could possibly be a little bit misleading. In fact, we could even possibly see a small step back in July if we continue to see more businesses close down because of the spiking of the virus. So even though we are seeing a big drop in the unemployment rate, it's possible that we may take a step back or two in the next month or so. Betsy Stevenson mentioned that the virus drives the economics, which is actually quite true in many ways. If case numbers are down and under control, then businesses are able to open up and not have any restrictions placed on them. And whenever the businesses are open without any type of restrictions, the economy thrives and the business thrives. And on the other hand, whenever case numbers are on the rise, that forces businesses to either restrict or to completely shut down, which of course in turn also causes the economy to dwindle. President Trump, of course, was very ecstatic with the June jobs report, calling it spectacular. And of course Trump is going to be happy with it. He's going to live and die by the economy right now. His re-election chances in November are completely dependent on it. If unemployment continues to decrease and the economy recovers, then the chances of Trump getting re-elected are much stronger. And honestly, I think everyone wants the economy to improve. We want to go back to our jobs and we want to return to our normal lives. Life with this virus has just not been any fun for any of us. Okay, so with the June jobs report showing such good numbers, you might be wondering, how could this possibly impact the next stimulus bill? One might think that since the unemployment rate continues to go down, there might be less of a chance to receive a second stimulus check. If more and more people are getting back to work, the Senate Republicans may no longer see a need for a second round of stimulus checks. After all, they have already mentioned that they want to first look at the job numbers and the data before determining what's going to be in the next stimulus package. However, I still am very optimistic about Americans receiving a second round of stimulus checks, even with the unemployment rate continuing to go down. Now, I do think that some of the data in the June jobs report could possibly impact some of the things that are going to be in the next stimulus package, such as maybe unemployment, but I don't think it will impact whether or not we'll receive our stimulus checks or not. So they may possibly use that data to determine whether or not the federal unemployment boost should be extended through the end of the year, or maybe possibly just a few more months, but I don't think it's going to impact these stimulus checks. I definitely do not think that it's going to impact Nancy Pelosi's viewpoint on whether or not Americans should receive a second round of stimulus checks. And Donald Trump has already essentially come out and guaranteed on multiple occasions that Americans will receive a second round of stimulus checks. And just a couple of days ago, he even said that he wants to be more generous than Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats, and he wants to give more than $1,200 essentially. So with all that said, with Nancy Pelosi being on board and Donald Trump pretty much guaranteeing a second round of stimulus checks, I myself am extremely optimistic about a second round, and I really can't see a scenario where we don't receive a second round of stimulus checks. At the moment, the only people that we're really looking at right now are the Senate Republicans, and even though they really weren't on board at first with a second round of stimulus checks, we saw many Senate Republicans completely opposed to a second round, but recently more and more are beginning to jump on board with a second round of stimulus checks. Now, in my opinion, it's probably because President Trump has been in their ears telling them that we need to get a second round out. He's promising it, so it's going to look pretty bad on his part if he's promising a second round, but he can't get his fellow Republicans on board with the second round of stimulus checks and nothing ends up getting passed. It's really going to hurt his re-election chances come November. So I think this will be perfect timing for him if we see stimulus checks go out, say late August, early September, and then we have the elections coming up just a couple of months later. That's going to really bode well in his re-election chances, I think. So the Senate is going to come back from their 2-week July 4th recess, and then from there they'll have approximately 3 weeks to write up a bipartisan stimulus bill, meaning a bill that the House Democrats can also get behind. And over the next couple weeks, we should hear some quotes from some of the Republican senators. Even though they're on recess, they're still going to be working on the next stimulus bill. They may be able to make phone calls. They're not going to be in Washington together working on the bill, but whenever they do return to Washington in a couple of weeks, they should at least have some type of idea of how they want to piece this next stimulus package together. So even though the Senate will have a tight timeline to piece this bill together, I do think that they will get the job done in the end. This stimulus package is just all too important to possibly fail. Okay, so at this point, I just wanted to touch base real quickly on the EIDL grant, and this is for people who have any type of small business or a side hustle. It does not have to be anything large, so you could be selling on eBay part-time or maybe driving for Uber or Lyft just a couple of hours per week. And if you were impacted by this pandemic or by this virus in any shape or form, which let's face it, most likely you were, you can go ahead and apply for this grant. It's $1,000 per employee, up to 10 employees, and if you do not have any employees, you would be eligible for $1,000. And this is a grant, it's not a loan, meaning that you do not have to repay this money back. And if you have any hesitations or any doubts whatsoever on whether or not your side hustle or whether or not your small business would be eligible for this grant, just apply. The worst thing that could possibly happen is they deny you, and the best thing that would happen is that you would be eligible for it and you would receive your $1,000. And I've been super excited to see many comments in my comment sections of my videos from people who received their $1,000 grant within just 2 to 3 days of applying for the grant. So if you have any doubts whatsoever, just apply. You have absolutely nothing to lose. Also, if you are one of the ones that have a side hustle or a small business and you would like to apply for this grant, I will leave a link in the description box below that you can click on and go to apply for this grant. All right, so at this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. And if you have any other comments or questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I do try to answer as many comments and questions as I possibly can. And those comments and questions that I'm not able to get to, I do try to pick some of the more popular ones to answer in the next video in video form. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first comment of today's video. And that comment is from Brandon. Brandon says, how soon can we receive our second stimulus check? And when can we possibly expect it? All right, thank you so much for that question, Brandon. So the Senate will get back from their 2-week recess at some point in mid-July, and then from there they'll have around 3 weeks to pass a bipartisan bill, meaning a bill that them and the House Democrats can both get behind. So my guess is that the bill will pass sometime in early August. So if the bill passes in early August, that means that we should expect to receive our second round of stimulus checks at some point either in late August or early September. All right, so the next comment of today's video is from Janelle. Janelle says, I work for Rover. My business was booming. I was booked almost every day. It has come to a complete stop. Am I eligible for a grant through EIDL? All right, thank you so much for that question, Janelle. So it sounds like in your case, you had a very successful side hustle or small business going. And whenever the pandemic took place, it sounds like your business came to a complete stop. So it sounds like you were definitely impacted by the pandemic. So then you should definitely be eligible for the EIDL grant. So with all that said, I would definitely apply. You should be eligible. And I hope that you receive your EIDL grant very, very soon after applying. All right, so on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you did enjoy the content in this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is completely free to do so and it's a great support to me. Also, if you would like to receive one free stock from Robinhood valued all the way up to $500, feel free to claim that free stock by clicking the link in the description box below. And until next time, I'll see you guys and I hope you have a great day today.